Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today I wanted to talk about a few things that's been happening. There's a lot of things that's been happening in the last 2 days actually in the NBA world. All these trades that have been going on. Milwaukee just got upgraded, but I'll make a video about that in the future. Today I don't want to talk about all those other trades. I want to talk about one specific trade that might happen, that might not happen. But before we get into that, I just want to make sure that if you guys like the video, like, subscribe, and like or comment just so we can grow this channel. Aside from that, let's get into it. James Harden turned down a $50 million extension in the hopes of him being able to be traded to the Brooklyn Nets in the following days or maybe this season or not, right? And he's trying to basically Armstrong or force his way onto the Brooklyn Nets. So word has come out that he wants to play with Kyrie and Kevin Durant in Brooklyn. Why anyone would want to play with Kyrie, I don't know, beats me, but apparently he wants to. Here's the thing about this trade. James Harden is under contract for 3 more years, so he doesn't have leverage in this trade, right? He can't just say, if you trade me to this spot, I'm not gonna sign with them, I'm only gonna sign with Brooklyn. No. You trade him, he's gonna stay to wherever he's traded to for another 3 years. Houston should want to get the most for James Harden if he wants to leave, right? So you're already in the bucket. He wants to leave and you don't want him to go for nothing, right? So try and get the most for him. I don't know what Brooklyn is gonna offer. Houston may gut Brooklyn for James Harden, but we'll see what happens. But let's say the trade goes through. If the trade goes through, there's a few things I just don't like about this, right? Number one, like I made in my previous video, Kyrie Irving is tough to get along with and tough to play with. We're talking about the biggest diva in today's game, all right? He's a guy who thinks he's smarter than everyone else, who says what he needs, what he wants to say all the time, regardless of other people's feelings or whatever, and he thinks he's just much better than everyone else, even sometimes players that are better than him, like LeBron, which just isn't true, which makes it hard to play with him, right? And another thing that makes it hard to play with him is he's constantly hurt, all right? He's built like Derrick Rose's knees. He is always hurt. That can be frustrating when you're playing with someone and you're relying on them to perform, but they're always on a bench because they're always hurt. So that's something that you have to consider if you want to be traded to Brooklyn, you know? And another thing is Kyrie has a huge ego that can't be satisfied easily, right? He was only able to win a championship with LeBron because LeBron is a very smart basketball player and he knew, yo, Kyrie's a good basketball player. Let me give him the shine that he wants and then get out of his way. Let me make him happy so he can do his thing so we can win a championship. Other players aren't like that. Other players aren't willing to sacrifice a little bit of the limelight for you to, you know, thrive. And Kyrie's not like that. Kyrie could not thrive in Boston because he would butt heads with everyone. His ego is off the chains and it's just hard to manage. So as you can tell, playing with 2 other superstars is gonna be really tough. As you can guess, most of this video is really just Kyrie's terrible. I mean, he's a good basketball player, but he's not the best to play with. But number two, we don't talk about this enough, is James Harden in his own right is kind of hard to play with too, right? He has the past record. He's taught us that, you know, he's hard to get along with and play with, mainly because of his style of play, right? So he has a lot of ball dominance when he plays. He has a high usage rate when he plays, meaning the ball's in his hands a lot. He needs the ball in order to thrive, to survive. With someone like Kevin Durant, that could work, but how's that gonna work with someone like Kyrie Irving, who also needs the ball a lot, you know? So you gotta really consider that when you are thinking about maybe going to Brooklyn, right? And then another thing is, he also has a huge ego too, you know what I mean? His ball dominance kind of alienates other players to the sidelines to the point where they just have to sit back and watch him dribble the ball for so long, do him, and he may or may not pass to them, and they have to be okay with that. So that kind of just isn't, I don't know if Kyrie's willing to do that. I don't know if KD's willing to do that. KD can ball with anyone. That's the good thing about KD. He can ball with literally anyone. He can hoop with anyone, and that's good for him. But Kyrie, I don't know. And another thing is James Harden, he's proved in the past that he doesn't get along with stars or with other star players that much. For example, Chris Paul, right? Chris Paul came in there, he was there for a year, and they did really well together, right? They did really well together. They went all the way to the Western Conference Finals, and they took a very healthy Golden State team to Game 7. So they were really close. They were a good team. But the thing that sucked was James Harden Harden and Chris Paul had a minor meltdown in the playoffs, right? And instead of going back to the drawing board and saying, hey, why don't we fix this so we can be better next year, James Harden immediately went to Daryl Morey and they ended up shipping Chris Paul out of Houston and he went to OKC. So that tells me that when it all hits the fan, James Harden is more likely to just bail than to try and fix a problem, right? Also, this year he played with Russell Westbrook and it wasn't working. He immediately bailed, right? You're going to a place, Brooklyn, that has the potential to just go left, to go sideways. I don't know how you're gonna respond to that. Your past has told me that you're the kind of guy that just bails when the going gets rough. So I don't know if that's gonna work for James Harden. I don't like that about that aspect of James Harden. I just don't like that. He's still my favorite player. He still brings me to a TV screen and I'll watch him whenever he's playing, but you can't deny his shortcomings. Another shortcoming that he has is that you kind of just, in order for him to succeed, because he is the system in and of himself, he doesn't fit into a system. He is the system. You have to build around him in a sense that you have to get players, right, who are good shooters, right, who are willing to stand there and watch him dribble and occasionally get the ball and just chuck up the ball or shoot the ball, or be able to manage their egos and just let him do him, right? You have to find players like that, and finding guys like that is kind of rare, right? You're not gonna find a lot of guys, especially Kyrie and KD. They're not willing to just stand by and watch you do you and do all this whatever for like 2 minutes and occasionally pass to them. They're not willing to do that. So that's another thing where it might go wrong and it might not work out for them. So because James Harden has his shortcomings, Kyrie's not the only person that has their shortcomings. The only person on the team that I think can thrive in any situation is Kevin, but you know, that's remained to be seen. I have faith in him, but we don't know if he'll work with these guys. So that brings me to number 3. Number 3 is the egos of these 3 superstars is massive. You have to remember, this is an MVP, James Harden, an MVP, Kevin Durant, and 2-time NBA Finals MVP, and this is a NBA champion, Kyrie Irving. So their egos are up there, right? And they're being coached by a true freshman coach, meaning this coach has no experience. He's never had an assistant. He's never been an assistant. He's never been any of that. He's a true freshman coach. And to ask him to manage all 3 of these egos at once is a tall order. And I don't have faith. I don't think that Steve Nash has the makings to manage all these egos all at once. If you remember, Kyrie Irving already went on a record talking about he doesn't need to be coached. Him and KD can coach themselves, basically disregarding Steve Nash as a coach or as a legitimate coach, as a legitimate authority that they could listen to. He just said, no, we don't need all that. And when you bring in some other guy like James Harden, who also has a massive ego, who also has a past of a coach letting him do whatever he wants, and Mike D'Antoni, just remember, Mike D'Antoni in Houston just used to give James Harden the keys to the offense, do whatever you want, half the defense, triple the offense kind of coaching. When you bring that guy in, it's gonna be hard for Steve Nash to correlate and herd these guys and make them function as a unit. That's a tall order to ask for a freshman true head coach. And I don't know if he's able to do that. So that's where I'm also very skeptical. That's another aspect of this whole thing that I don't like. Number 4, KD will finally recognize the true value that Steph has in this league. He will finally see that, wow, Steph is that guard, that guy that has the accolades, that has the championships, but he's smart enough and humble enough to put the team for himself. He's willing and able to give you the ball to do what you need to do if it means that you guys will win as a team. Not a lot of guys are willing to do that. They'll say that. They'll say that at the podium on a post conference, but when push comes to shove, not a lot of guys are willing to do that. And KD is finally gonna realize that. He's gonna be like, wow, this guy, him, Clay, that whole system they had, they were something else. I missed that. That's crazy. That's really crazy. And you hate to see that I left, but I left and I'm an idiot. And he's gonna see that, and hopefully he realizes and he values Steph more. Because honestly, when you look back on it, Steph and Clay, the things they did, the way they played, the way they welcomed in Kevin Durant as part of them, and he was willing and he was able to fit into the system so perfectly. It is a testament to their basketball prowess and their IQ and the way they just know basketball, the way they play basketball, and a testament to Steve Kerr too. So yeah, those are basically my thoughts on this whole James Harden to Brooklyn thing, to the Brooklyn Nets thing. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm working hard to crank out these videos on a semi-daily basis every other day. So if you guys enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and comment. Aside from that, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for tuning in.